Hello, my name is Salmon John. How is everybody? Good, good. I work with Lindy Stevenson, Isaiah Martha. I work at Norton Hospital. I'm an X-ray tech. So I've been working with Lindy for 3 years. She knew that I had gone to some other school before and speak about this book, and that's why she was talking to her son about it. And I think that's how everything came to you guys when you picked to read the books. First of all, I'm a married person. I have 3 children of my own. My oldest son is 12 years old. He's now in 7th grade. And my daughter is 9 years old. She is in 4th grade. She will be 5th grade next year. Maybe her school gonna ask me to do this, I don't know. First of all, I'm an English learner. I learn English. And you guys could even speak English better than I am. I do have an accent too. So if you don't get some words, I'm apologize for that, but you can later follow up with me, okay? This is the book you guys read. I read the book too. I didn't know about it until somebody were looking for somebody who knows the guy in the book here called Salpa. I know Salpa myself. We did not start our journey together, but we met later in a country that was our neighbor called Ethiopia. And so I know him physically, who the guy is. At first, I came to US in 2001, and it was the same journey that started from village, where Salva walked out from his village, I walked out from my village, many others walked out from their own villages, and we went to the same direction due to what was happening in Sudan. Some of those things are tough for you guys to understand, but I appreciate that you took time to read these books. It was, for me, Salva started his work back in 1985. That's what the book said. Myself, it was 2 years later after Salva left that I had left my village as well. Because it was not a planned thing where people have to leave at the same time. It just happened when your village got hit by the war. Then that's when you start running and looking for safety, go to some places that where you can hide yourself, which I had some map here to show you, but I think your teachers will be able to help you, to show you the map of Sudan, in close to those countries that we have been to. That will give you an idea of how far away those other countries was from where we started. In 1987, to tell you my little story, my experience of the same nature, the war in Sudan started in 1983 in a nearby town from my village, actually very close, about 2 hours and a half away. That's when the war started in 1983. But it was just kind of contained into the city and town itself. It did not go to villages at that time. So there was no need for anybody in the village to run. They were not after anybody at that time. They were fighting with people from my communities that are from the south. The policies in Africa are different from the policies and the way people govern themselves here. So in Sudan, Sudan is a big country. It has now split into 2 countries recently in 2011, and it was just due to this war. When that war started, nobody bothered in the village. 4 years later, it hit my closest village when the soldiers, the government soldiers came out in what they were calling looking for a rebel, for people who were fighting with them in the village. And they asked villagers, at some point they started like a month, 2 weeks before it hit my village. they started with the nearby village, which was about 30 minutes of walk to the town. And they came out and asked people, if you know these people who are coming to fight with them in the town, because the rebels were actually kind of outnumbered. They don't have enough weapons to stand the government power. So they just hit and run. And so people say we don't have any idea. We not carry guns, we, part of them. But because they know they are sons and daughters of those communities in Africa, that's the way, that's a very good reason for you also to be a victim. And so they start attacking those villages, they set some of them on fire. And then they went back to their barrack. So 2 weeks later, they start the big move. And that's when they came to our village. They were moving some hard planes, like helicopters, gunships, around the village. And then when they see something that they think is suspicious, they bomb down. And so as villagers are not well informed of what to do when situation like that happens, so everybody gets panicked. And people ran, but people were assuming, okay, it's only with Heflin, they're not gonna go back. Well, while they were doing that, the ground soldiers were actually moving and nobody knew. They were coming to the villages. It was evening, as I can remember. Boys of my age, your age, at that time I was 8. Is there anybody 8 years old here? Okay, I was 8. And most of the boys, based on our traditional village, are asked in the village to look after things like cattle, goats, things like that. So I was with different other groups. We go into nearby jungle and you look after your own herd of sheep, cattle, goats, and you meet with other boys, and then you can play. We like wrestling game. When you go to inside that, you will find that game of wrestling. It's not like the wrestling that you see on the TV. It's different. So then we had bomb coming to our direction. And so we start to run. And the people in the village actually were hit while we were in the jungle area. And some of them ran into the swamp areas. And in Sudan, there is a river called River Nile. There was another place where people ran for safety. So the people in the village very much were close to the swamp areas of the River Nile. So they ran, but those who were close to a cattle camp, where a lot of boys had to run into the jungle. And we thought it was just something that maybe when it gets dark, it will stop. But it never stopped. And we ran into that direction without knowing whether we're gonna come back or not. We did not come back to a village. We have seen a lot of people catching us on the way and telling us it's getting bad, let the kid keep going. There were some few adults, they were not many, who ran into our direction. And so when they hear things like that, and being a people of 8 years old, we were not standing that long walks. So they make us sit, and when they hear the gun coming closer, they ask us to move. So in my village, compared to Salpa village, the guy in the book, my village was a little bit closer to Ethiopia border compared to Salpa village. So it took us about a month, I would say 25 days, best I can remember, and then we hit Ethiopia. But for Salpa, it took him longer because his village was part to the north. And when we went to the border of Ethiopia, while we were walking along the way, it was a long walk. There was a situation of getting thirsty, no water. There were many situations of getting scared by wild animals along the way. And some of us were attacked at night by a lot of lions, animal like tigers, a lot of them. And it becomes scary. So those few adults, they have nothing in their hand to protect anybody. All they have is to organize you and give you an instruction of how, when a certain situation happens, how you have to handle. For example, if you walk by and you see a group of lions, some of them were not after people a lot. It's only when you activate them, when you find them in the deep jungle, what they after is they kill a lot of things to do like gazelle or deer, things like that. And if you have not mess up with them, not get closer to them, they can just watch. But if you do something like you try to get their attention, that could get bad. So those adults kind of advise us to work as quiet as much as possible, not triggering anything that will cause them to attack us. So we went by and fed those animals from not, but some of the people get attacked at night. When people get thirsty at the daytime, after that the thing changed. They told people, no, we should not work at night, at daytime. So we resort to work at night. And working at night is what makes us vulnerable to those other attacks from animals. And when we went to Ethiopia border, we were stopped at some point, and many of those rebels who were fighting with the government, they were told that the whole villages are being set on fire by the government soldiers. And so some of them managed to come back in the direction where we're coming. They pass by, we see them going by. Just to use what we laid on hand, we didn't know, we thought they can go and fight and do miracles to defeat the government, but they cannot. They just do kind of a delaying fight to give us time to get away further from the danger zone. Many people along the way die, of course. Some die of thirsty, some die of sickness, and some die because of attack on animals. So myself, with my other 5 kids that are my extended cousins who were with me at that time, one of us get lost. But he got lucky. For about a few days later, he was found by those group of rebels, and they brought him over. And that was the first thing that hit us. That was shock. We tried to miss him. And after that, when we went to Ethiopia, to make the long story short, we came to the border. There were no food. People were feeding using the wild leaves of trees. And when we came to the Ethiopia border, the Ethiopian government talked to the United Nations. I don't know whether you guys know about United Nations, but you might have seen something about them. It's a group of nations that is actually part of it here in the United States. They were told of what happening in Sudan, and so they sent what they call Red Cross, the defense group that go into any emergency situation. They went there, some of them came and filmed us. On the border, a lot of people get sick. And so they called the people of UN and they asked the Ethiopian government to come in if they can have any doctors with some medicine. And those were not enough. There was a lot of people. Because we meet in the bush, days and days you meet new group, days and days you meet new group emerging out from different villages and different directions. So why is the Ethiopian border was the best direction to go? There were other countries, but that was the only open direction where there was no government that we can run into along the way. So that's why Ethiopian direction was the only safest place to go to. So when we went there, we stayed in Ethiopia for 4 years. Many questions was, as a kid, we were hoping that we're going to be taken back to our parents. Every year go by, hoping that we're going to be going back to see our parents. It never happened, because the news that are coming is that if we go back there, we're going back to a situation where a lot of us are not going to make it. Also, what the government was doing, they were after boys a lot, more than girls. because they knew this war would take a long time.